Hey fam, so let's talk the book of Jonah. So God tells Jonah, I want you to go to Nineveh, to go and cry out to Nineveh because they have turned against me, and now they're doing, they're like they've turned into wickedness. Jonah, thinking like a human being, says in his mind, is like, I'm not gonna go to Nineveh because God is still going to forgive the people of Nineveh when they ask for mercy. I will instead go to Tarshish. So Jonah, he takes a boat to go to Tarshish instead of Nineveh. So when Jonah boats, God sends a great wind, and the people in the boat starts questioning like what's happening. So the people used to worship other gods. So they start crying out to their gods, asking their gods to rescue them. And then Jonah was over there laying down. So the captain asks Jonah to arise and call on to his God, saying, maybe your God is gonna come to our rescue. They're just over there wondering what's happening. And then the captain is like, and you? So he asks Jonah, Ebu, tell us more about you. Where are you from? Jonah tells them he's Hebrew and he fears the Lord. And then he tells them about the story about how, God wanted him to go to Nineveh, but he refused to go to Tarshish. So I think everyone knows how the story goes. They threw Jonah to the sea, akamezwa, and then 3 days later he was basically akatapikwa in Nineveh. So when he goes to Nineveh, he tells them, you guys have turned against God, and this is what God is saying. God, being the merciful God he looks at the people of Nineveh and doesn't punish them because he realizes they have turned back to him, like wamerudi kwa God. And then Jonah gets so angry. Jonah was like, I knew it. God just wanted me to come over here, and then he was just gonna forgive them. So Jonah gets angry. So God asked him why he was angry, and Jonah was like, you had told me to come and tell these people this, and you have already forgiven them because you're such a merciful God. And God was like, yeah, don't be mad. But Jonah was like, I'd rather die. He literally wished death on himself because God had forgiven these people. He akatengeneza shelter and he lies. God, being the God that he is, he gives him like this plant that gives shade to his head. By morning, by dawn, God brings a worm that eats that plant. The plant withers. So one thing, shade inaondolewa kwa Jonah, and then God causes a very great strong wind in the desert. It sweeps away Jonah's shelter. And Jonah again, he cries to God and he wishes death on himself because of how angry he was. But God, the last chapter of Jonah, so Jonah is like, it is better for me to die than to live. And in verse 9, chapter 4, then God said to Jonah, is it right for you to be angry about the plant? And he said, it is right for me to be angry, even to death. But the Lord said, you have had pity on a plant for which you have not labored, because God is the one who gave him this plant in shade during the night, right? You have not labored, made it grow, which came up in a night and perished in a night, because God had brought this plant for him, right? And God asks, because of how angry Jonah was, because you see, he had pitied the plant for dying. God asks him, and should I not pity Nineveh, that great city, in which are more than 120,000 people who cannot discern between their right hand and their left? Literally, God asks him, kama unahurumia this plant, and you are angry that I've forgiven the people of Nineveh, knowing very well, in chapter 4 verse 2, prayed to the Lord and said, Lord, was not this what I said when I was in my country? Therefore I fled previously to Tarshish. I know that you are a gracious and merciful God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, one who relents from doing harm. Even if Jonah knew, like, God was gonna forgive the people of Nineveh, he did not act according to what God wanted him to do, because he had flew to Tarshish. The thing we learn in this book of Jonah is you can never disobey God. Obedience is, you should always, when he says go, you go. Like Abraham, when he told Abraham, you're gonna leave your city. Imagine leaving everything you know behind just to go to this promised land that you know nothing about. But the way Abraham left his city, the city like basically of his forefathers, and trusted God, is what Jonah should have done. But we also see how powerful God is, that hata kama Jonah alikuwa amekataa kupeleka like this or the message from the Lord to the people of Nineveh, might have taken 3 more days because he was in the belly, but it still got to the people. God will always find a way to get the message to his people. And something else that we learn is he is so merciful that literally Jonah was being told, tell these people they have turned away from me. And now they are worshiping other gods. Lani wamejimix with the people of this world when these are my people. But regardless of how angry God was at the people of Nineveh, when they turned away from their sin, when they turned away from their wickedness, God still forgave them. So we learn that God is a merciful God and he forgives us. So just turn away from what you're doing, what you think that is making you cause, like you think you're so away from God. Just turn back to God. He is ready to forgive you. He's ready to bring you back to him.